So the reason our growth has been quite erratic, volatile, is simply because we haven't adopted a long-term perspective to our national development. So the short-term nature, where we want the dividends as quickly as possible, really does not allow us to build the kind of economic fundamentals that will allow us to withstand shocks. So we should have a long-term view to our growth pattern. Even though you can look at the national average, and this is also something worth considering, there is regional district level differences in our country, which again doesn't help us in managing negative shocks. I'll give you an example.
Please go ahead.
When you quoted inflation for December 2022, and you said food inflation was 59.6% or so, if you look at that same data and you see the regional differences, okay, in terms of food inflation, in fact, whilst Greater Accra probably we're looking at maybe, or our national average 59, some regions in Ghana were experiencing food inflation in excess of 70% year on year, and the rest of them. So even within Ghana, the shocks, the regions do not react in the same way. There are differences across districts, regions, and the rest of them. So it's not just withstanding in terms of external shocks and the rest of them. We should also be looking at that kind of regional balance, and so that the shocks do not disproportionately.
How do we do that? Professor Bokpin, now that you make that point, I'm interested in that before you continue. Let's just address this before you continue. So how do we do that? Because certainly we know that some regions are affected more than the others. So how do we deal with this discrepancy?
Yeah, so it's about policy. If it's so, and I want to start from here. We don't use the granular data, the micro data, to inform national policy formulation and implementation. And that is why some regions are more exposed compared to others. If you look at inequality, poverty dynamics, and all of that, you see these differences manifesting hugely. If you look at what Ghana Statistical Service has done in the last couple of years, I would say maybe in the last 12 years, 15 years, there is sufficient data, granular data at the regional district level that should guide our policy formulation and implementation. Otherwise, we are missing out broadly. And the fact that some regions are affected more than others in itself can destabilize the country going forward. So those are the things that we need to look at. The basic issue, and I agree with Dr. Fosu-Dote, if you look at the basic issues, the channel of transmission of some of these negative shocks, the direct one is food. Food. Even though we talk more about food sovereignty and the rest of them, our food sustainability relies so much on the global supply chain, regional supply chain stability, and the rest of them. So when there are shocks, either if it passes through the fuel channel, its impact in transportation and food inflation is very clear. Because if you look at the data, our food inflation, quite a certain percentage of that is largely also because of lack of fiscal connectivity